Well, it's been an interesting few months since I tried to do a good thing. And last night, I had to make a tough decision that I don't feel great about, but I felt like it was the only option. I also spoke to um, the CEO of Give Send Go, and their team agrees. I want to get into this. So many of you might remember back in April. I reported on what I thought at the time, based on all available information, was a man, Jacob uh, Couch, and so as the way the media reported it, his wife. I later found out that they weren't married. Um, were sitting on a park bench in Arizona when some deranged, large, um, future college scholar uh, literally tried removing his head with a hatchet. Everything in terms of this criminal case, we still don't know. He appeared in court. He's been charged. They found him. What led to this, I don't know. I'm sure somebody's going to start a give, send, go for the guy at any moment because he was just a good boy who was misunderstood. The suspect, um, at his arraignment, the judge entered a not guilty plea on his behalf. The scheduled case management conference is tomorrow, and the pretrial conference is July 7th. And I will follow this case because lost in all of this is Jacob does deserve justice, and I will continue to cover this case. Um, you know, Apparently, he had been on life support. He was attacked at a streetcar stop in downtown Tucson. For we know no motive right now. And this is the future scholar that was charged with the crime. Documents show during a search warrant, investigators found the hatchet in his apartment as well as clothes worn during the incident. There's no doubt that this guy is guilty. Nobody knows why he did it, and nobody's, I guess it's difficult to understand demons. Now, that all said, I thought, wow, here's a young man and his wife at the time who were mourning the loss of their child. This is everything I knew at the time. And this sucks. This is terrible. And it's still terrible. So I started to Give, Send, Go. We raised nearly $100,000 for what I thought was his family. Over the next 2 months, I will spare the details. Basically, I started this, I don't know exactly when I started it, back in April. Over the last several months, I have been dealing with multiple members of the family, multiple members of the people that said they were part of the family that aren't part of the family, and a whole bunch of other people who all have their hands out or want to dictate how this money is spent, where this money goes. I asked that they set up a trust in a last-ditch effort. Essentially, I found out much about the family and many people involved. I also spoke to his brother, who appears to love his brother very much. And yesterday, I got contacted by a lawyer of yet another person out there. I did some digging on who that lawyer was, and there was some interesting information about him too, and his connection to certain people. And ultimately, I asked on May 28th, set up a trust. I had asked between May and May 28th, set up a trust. Let's just give this money. I thought, well, I'm trying to protect the family, so I don't want to disparage anybody. Life is hard. People make certain decisions in their life down the road, and I'm not here to pile on. But essentially, I found out, hey, there's some question of whether or not they were even married. How many of these kids were even his kids? It was a huge mess. Okay. And then I get contacted by a lawyer, and I thought, boy, this feels great. I've spent the last 2 months just trying to give the money to these people. All I asked was that a trust be set up because I didn't want to just hand $100,000 to a complete stranger. And I wanted, money to go to the kids who I thought were his kids. Again, none of this really matters. I'm just saying that I have tried tirelessly to unravel what is a huge mess. And the lawyer contacting me was the final straw. I have reached out to Give, Send, Go, and as of right now, everybody's going to be refunded. I am so incredibly proud of not just my viewers, but everybody that rallied to support this cause. But I also, as the curator of this Give, Send, Go, of which the vast majority of funds in this Give, Send, Go are from my viewers, I have a responsibility to my viewers and how this money, and to the money that they so generously donated. And so when a lawyer reaches out to me and then, obviously that I take that as a veiled threat, as a direct threat. When I do some digging on who the lawyer is, I do some digging on the family and everything that's going on. It appears to me that there is no reasonable beneficiary to this money. There is no beneficiary that I can trust. In my heart, with your money. And so I've shared all the information that I have with Give, Send, Go. And Give, Send, Go has also come to that same conclusion and will be refunding this entire amount. And the real tragedy here, obviously, is, this man lost his life in what we can only describe as an unprovoked attack. He had at least one child who was set to get this money. And I wrote in an important update, I said, everyone that's donated, thank you. Secondly, I've spent the last several weeks trying to make contact, talk to lawyers, set up a trust for this money. It's been far more complicated than any time I've ever done a fundraiser for somebody. And I have done many. I've spoken to half a dozen family members who've been accused of stealing the money, all because I just wanted to make sure to do the right thing and make sure the right people get the money. Without putting any family drama out there, after much deliberation, I've decided that 100% of the money should go to his only biological daughter. There are reasons for this I can't share, but it's the thing that makes sense. And I gave everyone a chance basically to, rescind their donations if they disagreed with that. And I would have 100% supported that. If they're like, hey, I donated the money based on this, that, or the other thing, I thought of this, that, this is why I donated. It's fine. But when I get lawyers contacting me, when I'm just trying to, and by the way, I have thousands of my own dollars in this account. So when I have lawyers contacting me and I feel like I'm being lied to by half a dozen people, it's very difficult to know when I can't sit across the table from somebody and look them in the eyes. And, my heart goes out to Jacob's family, in particular to his biological daughter. But I have, really Give, Send, Go had no choice. Give, Send, Go really had no choice because we could not find a reasonable beneficiary, and the whole situation sucks. I know people are in bad places and they see, hey, this is a lot of money, and they think, hey, this can help me out. I don't know. I'm not going to disparage anyone individually. I'll say this. I talked to Jacob's brother, Luke, and he seemed like he really loved his brother. That's what I'll say. I'm not going to talk disparagingly around anybody else who's involved in this. I'm not going to, put that lawyer on blast, although I probably should. But this has not deterred me to try and do the right thing. And it should not deter you when you want to do the right thing. Because ultimately, we all donated based on what we thought was, the best. You had an anonymous person here give $5,000. Another anonymous giver, $2,000. The quartering, I gave $5,000. Meta PCs gave $1,000. I mean, lots of people donated to this. And a lot of, Viva Fry, people I know. And the rest of these are probably my viewers. But I just didn't feel comfortable. So if this lawyer wants to sue me, so be it. I don't feel good giving your money out. I've tried for months. My dudes, I have had half a dozen phone calls, hundreds and hundreds of text messages. And I don't know who to trust, and so I cannot release this money. Give, Send, Go agrees completely and stands with me on this, that the beneficiary is not clear, and we all owe a responsibility to those who donate. So if the guy sues me, so be it. I hope he knows that, my lawyer is Bill Richmond, the half Asian super lawyer, and he's not going to, it's not going to be easy for him. And my responsibility as the person who started this is to you guys who donated to it. And so, please don't let this make you hesitate in the future from donating. In fact, it should make you feel like, hey, Give, Send, Go and myself are looking out not just for the people we start this stuff for, but also for the people that donate. So I'm told that they're going to start processing refunds this week. So if you see your money refunded, you'll see it on whatever the original payment form you did. I think if there's any fees or whatever like that, I'm not sure of how that works. But again, I did the best I could to get to the bottom of this. I'm praying for, his family and those involved. But when you have lawyers contacting me, that wasn't even the only reason. It was months and months of trying to figure this out. I don't feel good about it. So I hope you understand, and I hope it doesn't discourage you from giving in the future. I hope you're informed by this video, and we'll talk to you again real soon.